know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk exposes the Brushy Bill story's faked capture of Billy the Kid in Brushy Bill Roberts' book, Alias Billy the Kid. The information is from my book, Cracking the Billy the Kid Imposter Hoax of Brushy Bill Roberts. After Brushy Bill Roberts and his hoax team of mastermind WilliamVMorrison and Alias Billy the Kid author C.L. Sonneshan faked Billy Bonney's 1879 pardon bargain with Governor Lew Wallace, they had few sources to fake Brushy's Billy the Kid memories for 1880. In reality, 1880 was an event-filled year for real Billy, so fatally missed in Brushy's Alias Billy the Kid autobiography titled The Brushy Bill Story, were Billy's surviving a murder attempt, his pursuit by the Secret Service, his second pardon chance, and details of his capture by Pat Garrett. So debunking involves not just what Brushy said, but what he didn't say. What he did say came mostly from semi-fictional sources, Pat Garrett's 1882, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, and Walter Noble Burns's 1926, The Saga of Billy the Kid, which copied from Garrett. One of the big events, fatally missed by Brushy, was Billy Bonney's January 3, 1880, near murder by Texan bounty hunter Joe Grant in Fort Sumner's Hargrove's Saloon. Grant's gun misfired, and Billy shot him dead in self-defense. This Joe Grant incident is in The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, but it's hard to follow and mixed with Grant's also threatening John Chisholm's brother. And the research on Joe Grant's killing by historian Philip J. Rash was still unknown. Years later, in an August 7, 1957 letter, Morrison lied defensively to historian Frederick Nolan. Excerpted, he wrote, "Rash contends the actual records shows that Henry Antrim killed Joe Grant, whereas there is no record to prove that anyone killed Joe Grant." This just meant that Morrison hadn't found any. As bad as missing Joe Grant was Brushy's missing Billy's pursuit by the Secret Service, part of the Treasury Department. That's because it wasn't known until the 1970s when Pat Garrett's biographer Leon Metz discovered Secret Service Special Operative Azariah F. Wild's daily reports in the National Archives for his 1974 book, Pat Garrett, The Story of a Western Lawman. In reality, from September to December of 1880, Operative Azariah Wild was in New Mexico Territory investigating counterfeiting. He was misled by the Santa Fe Ring into believing that Billy led a rustling and counterfeiting gang. to capture or kill him, while back the November of 1880 election of Pat Garrett as Lincoln County Sheriff then made him a deputy U.S. Marshal for territory-wide jurisdiction. But initially, Wild intended to give Billy a pardon in exchange for his testifying against the counterfeiters. This bargain was offered through Billy's loyal attorney, Ira Leonard. But Ring influence made Wild plan to arrest Billy at their pardon meeting, about which Billy learned by stealing Wild's reports from the mail coach. So he avoided the meeting, but lost his second pardon chance. The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid did mention Wild, but just as a detective, so Brushy and team missed the connection to Billy. Garrett stated, in October of 1880, Azariah F. Wild, a detective in the employment of the Treasury Department, visited New Mexico to glean information in regard to the circulation of counterfeit money in Lincoln County. Mr. Wild sent for me to assist in working up these cases. He gave me authority to act in the manner according to my judgment. Brushy and team had just one prompt source for 1880, Billy Bonney's December 12, 1880 letter to Governor Lew Wallace about the killing of White Oak's posseman Jim Carlisle at Billy's Great House Ranch ambush. So Brushy paraphrased, "We went to Las Vegas, where I read that Billy the Kid had killed Carlisle. I wrote to Governor Wallace and told him that I did not kill Carlisle, that his own men killed him, but I got blamed for that killing too." The source footnote gives Billy's letter. To be noted is that Brushy invented being in Las Vegas by misreading Billy's mentioning the Las Vegas Gazette. Excerpted, Billy wrote, "I noticed in the Las Vegas Gazette a piece about Billy the Kid having an outlaw gang. As to Carlisle, a shot was fired on the outside, and Carlisle, thinking Greathouse was killed, jumped through the window, breaking the sash as he went, and was killed by his own party, they thinking it was me, trying to make my escape." This prompt letter reveals that Morrison's coaching went back to an August 18, 1949 Brushy interview transcript in Sonishin's collected papers. With Billy's letter obviously in hand, Brushy parodied, "When they commenced shooting out there, Carlisle got scared, and he jumped out the window. As he went through the window, they shot him down. They thought it was me making my escape." There was also a prompt footnote, likely from folklorist Sonishin. It's Maurice Garland Fulton's article in the New Mexico Folklore Records 1949 to 1950 volume titled Billy the Kid in Life and Books, in which Fulton called the Carlisle killing unsolved. Since the location of the Great House Ranch was unknown until the 1980s, Brushy pretends he can't remember where it was, stating, "There has been a long time to recollect." And, having no prompt source, he omitted Billy's Coyote Spring ambush by the same White Oaks posse immediately before the Great House Ranch ambush. Since Pat Garrett was key to the history, Brushy and team tried to fake special knowledge. Unaware of his Secret Service backing, Brushy said he was backed by John Chisholm. Brushy added that Garrett was a buffalo hunter who killed his partner in an argument about dividing buffalo hides. That era was from the prompt source footnote, a fictionalized March 8, 1936 Alamogordo News article by old-timer John Meadows titled My association with Pat Garrett, pioneer peace officer of New Mexico. Meadows made up that buffalo hunter Garrett killed his partner named Glenn. Meadows stated, Garrett and his partner fell out over a rather trivial matter. The partner, Glenn, made at Garrett with an axe. Garrett killed Glenn instantly. In reality, Billy wouldn't have known about this incident, and Garrett didn't kill his partner, Willis Skelton Glenn. Garrett's 1876 killing was of Joe Briscoe, a teenager with their buffalo hunting group. It wasn't known until 1890 when Willis Skelton Glenn exposed it in his manuscript titled Pat Garrett as I Knew Him on the Buffalo Ranges. Glenn, who disliked Garrett, claimed Garrett killed Briscoe in a bad mood, but got away with it by claiming self-defense because Briscoe held an axe. Noteworthy is that Brushy denied friendship with Garrett, saying he, quote, turned coat after Brushy as Billy helped him when he arrived in Fort Sumner. That was hidden by later Brushy hoaxers who made up that Brushy's July 14, 1881 survival was because Garrett's friendship, being so great, was that he murdered the innocent victim to let Brushy as Billy escape. A big 1880 problem for Brushy and team was having no idea why Pat Garrett pursued Billy. Brushy had to name drop and confabulate. He wrongly guessed the Jim Carlisle killing. In reality, it was for Billy's murder indictments for the regulator killings of William Brady, George Hinman, and Andrew Buckshot Roberts. To fake special knowledge for Garrett's Fort Sumner ambush of Billy and his friends with the killing of Tom O'Folliard, Brushy made up that he, as Billy, wasn't there. He stated, As we rode in, I took another road, thinking they may be watching for us. In reality, Billy was there that December 19, 1880, and was Garrett's intended victim. Brushy name-dropped a Kip McKinney as at the ambush and as Tom O'Folliard's cousin. The prompt source for the cousin era was a January 1934 article by a Jack Shipman in Voice of the Mexican Border magazine titled Brief Career of Tom O'Folliard, Billy the Kid's Partner. A misread prompt was The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. Garrett stated, O'Folliard also asked Barney Mason to tell McKinney to write to his grandmother in Texas and inform her of his death. In reality, Kip McKinney wasn't in the ambush and was only Garrett's deputy for Billy's Fort Sumner killing. And O'Folliard and McKinney weren't cousins. Historian Frederick Nolan attributed the cousin era to both being from Uvalde, Texas, and a female cousin of McKinney's marrying a possible O'Folliard family member. Nolan concluded that Tom O'Folliard's genealogy is uncertain for lack of records. For Billy's capture, Brushy didn't know Stinking Springs. He said it took, quote, a couple of days to reach, quote, the Rock House. In reality, it was just 16 miles from Fort Sumner. For the ambush there, Brushy made up that shot Charlie Bowdry died beside the Rock House's horses. A source footnote for this fatal era, listed elsewhere in Alias Billy the Kid, is Belle Hudson's 1949 fictionalized book, Billy the Kid. It stated, Bowder, it was Bowdry, fell in the doorway to be dragged into the hut by his companions. Thus, missed by Brushy and team, was Bowdry's eerie death walk and fall into the huge ravine in which hid Garrett and his posse. Then Brushy had Garrett shoot dead a horse they were leading inside. His prompt source was the authentic life of Billy the Kid. Garrett stated, "Just as the horse was fairly in the door opening, I shot him dead, partially barricading the outlet." A prompt source footnote wrongly cited Lew Wallace's June 8, 1902 New York World Magazine article, "General Lew Wallace Writes a Romance of Billy the Kid." The correct and parroted prompt article was the Las Vegas Gazette's December 28, 1880 article titled "Interview with the Kid." In it, Billy says, "If it had not been for the dead horse in the doorway, I wouldn't be here in Las Vegas in jail. I would have ridden out on my bay mare and taken my chances of escaping. But I couldn't ride over that, for she would have jumped back, and I would have got it in the head." For post-capture, Brushy confabulated a scene for Garrett stopping at Fort Sumner with his prisoners. He name-dropped Garrett's posseman, Jim East, as his friend from Tascosa, Texas, and taking him as Billy to a meeting in the Maxwell house with Mrs. Maxwell. The prompt source footnote is a May 20th, 1926 letter by Jim East to a W.H. Burgess. Morrison got it from historian Robert N. Mullin, as he confirmed by a letter to him on April 14, 1951. In reality, Jim East wasn't Billy's friend, and Brushy had lifted unrelated Tascosa, Texas, from Billy's October 24, 1878 Hoyt bill of sale. Brushy's focus for the meeting was trading the Billy the Kid tintype to Maxwell's so-called Indian servant for a scarf, which he showed Morrison. It was apparently his pre-Morrison fiction, possibly from his 1930s Billy the Kid impersonation. Brushy lifted it from the saga of Billy the Kid. It stated, "When Billy was locked up in the Fort Sumner calaboose after his capture, Delavina went to visit him. It was a cold winter's day, and Delavina came home and got a heavy scarf she had knitted and took it to her hero. In return for this kindness, the Kid gave her his only photograph, which he had carried around in his pocket." Morrison photographed the scarf, and Sonishin put the picture in alias Billy the Kid. In reality, in 1880, Billy gave the tintype to counterfeiter Dan Dedrick, who took it to California and willed it to his family. Its provenance was so ironclad that in 2010, collector Bill Koch paid $2.3 million for it. Worse, Brushy and team fatally missed the punchline of Jim East's May 20th, 1926 letter. He was salaciously reporting captured Billy's parting with Paulita Maxwell. Excerpted, East wrote, "When we brought the prisoners in, Mrs. Maxwell sent the old Navajo woman over with a request to Captain Garrett to allow Billy to be sent over to her house so that her daughter Paulita and she could bid him goodbye. So Garrett detailed Lee Hall and I to guard Billy over, he being shackled to Dave Rudabout. Then Mrs. Maxwell asked Lee and I to unlock Billy from Dave and let Paulita go into another room with him for an affectionate farewell. But of course we had to refuse, although all the world loves a lover." Clueless Sonishin even cited Walter Noble Burns's June 3, 1926 letter to Jim East about the Paulita incident. But Sonishin's take was only, quote, "Burns omitted the incident because it made Paulita out to be Billy's sweetheart and Paulita, then living, objected. In reality, Burns was blocked by his publisher. Excerpted, Burns wrote, "I also know that the kid and Paulita were sweethearts, but I was unable to write it frankly because my publishers were afraid any such statement might lay them open to a libel suit." So, unaware of Paulita Maxwell's significance, Brushy was fatally unaware of Billy's lover, for whom he risked death after his great escape, to go to Fort Sumner to be with her instead of fleeing to Old Mexico. So, Brushy's autobiography, covering Billy Bonney's capture, showed no special knowledge, parroting of sources, prompting by his hoaxing team, confabulating fatal errors and fatal ignorance, all proving he wasn't Billy Bonney. And it showed the hoaxer's labor to trick readers. The talk to follow will debunk the Brushy Bill story's fake jailing, trial, and escape of Billy Bonney in alias Billy the Kid.